Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Henry Kaminski Jr. here from Unique Designz.net, and I want to welcome everyone to episode 1 of the Brand Doctor Podcast. So I am super excited to get this podcast going. It's been in the making for a long time now. Finally found the right production team to help me execute this. And I am just super excited to be able to offer more value, more quality, more insight, more information, more guidance, whatever it is that you need help with when it comes to building your brand. So for some of you guys that are following me on other social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, I want to share quickly my backstory for those of you that may not know who I am and are just meeting me for the first time. So I am going to make this as brief as possible and kind of give you the quick 10-year background on me and my company. So back in 2017, I started a graphic design business literally from scratch. It was literally a hobby at one point and was now turned into a multi-million-dollar business. And so how did that happen? So let me rewind for a second. So when I first got out of college, I was about 22 years old, and my uncles had some connection in a local hospital. So I asked them, hey, do you mind throwing my resume around, seeing if I could get something? Now, this was right after 9/11, so not a lot of people were hiring. And so I was getting extremely depressed because I was going on interview after interview after interview and just getting the door closed on me because I didn't have any experience. I was just this 22-year-old college graduate with a lot of ambition, but no experience. So long story short, I get into the hospital. They give me a position. It was very, very low. It was very entry level. And it was basically, I was a registration person. So for anybody that was getting a same day surgery, I would register them into the surgery. And that was pretty much the responsibility of the day. So I did that 4 hours out of the day. And then the other 4 hours, I literally spent inside the waiting room, just giving family members updates on their loved ones that were getting the surgery and making sure that the coffee pots were clean. And the interesting part about it was, my direct manager did not care for me too much, for the simple fact that, she knew who my uncle was, and she kind of resented the fact that that she had to take me on. And so anyway, she put me through living hell for 90 days. And I finally said, I can't do this anymore. So I went to her boss and I said, listen, this is what's been going on. I've been keeping track of everything. So she says, you know what, let me put you in another department. I don't know if it's more money or not, but let me put you in another department. So she takes me upstairs to the breast center. I'm doing the same exact work, but it's a little bit more money. So it was a little bit of a promotion there. So did that for 2.5 years. Literally this mundane job right out of college, just checking people in, verifying insurances, for the patients. And that was it. I did that for 2.5 years and I felt like a caged lion, that needed to get out. It was awful. It was awful. And I was going into depressions almost, saying to myself, I spent 4.5 years in college, trying to get a degree to better myself and to get a good job. And here I am, like, working with people that didn't even have college degrees. And so it was very, very pressing on my motivation and my ambition to make something of myself. And so I kept going for every promotion that I saw on the job board, and I kept getting turned down. So eventually I said, you know what? Why don't I get my master's degree and see if I can get a better paying position with a master's degree? So I spent 2 years getting a master's degree, start going for more promotions, putting him in. And I kept getting the door slammed on me for the simple fact they said, listen, we appreciate your education. You got a master's degree now in business. I get it, but you don't have any experience. So there's not much we can do for you, Henry. And so that was tremendously trying on my patience. And again, my ability to want to take my career to the next level. And so eventually I get a position in the children's hospital, and it was such a blessing in disguise. So it was a position for a special events director, which was the responsibilities of this position was to create fundraising events for those families that lost a child to sudden infant death syndrome. So it was a very serious department to work in. It was very rewarding, but it was very sad at the same time. If you don't know what sudden infant death syndrome is, look up SIDS in Google, and you'll get an idea of what it is. But the cool part about this position was I was in a fundraising position, but then on the back end, I also had the responsibility of creating events for the families that had lost a baby to SIDS in the state of New Jersey to all come together for support. So we would do trips to the Jersey Shore. We would do trips to, water parks and stuff like that, where we would all get together and, and help each other. And I did that for about 5.5 years, and it was an extremely rewarding position, but it was very sad at the same time, like I said. So here's what was going on. Here's how we got into Unique Designz. So anyway, once I finished a fundraising event, I had to start planning the next one, right? So I was thinking about ideas on what to do, and eventually I said, you know what? One of my favorite radio stations in New York City is Z100, and I was a big fan of the morning show with Elvis Duran. And so one of the co-hosts, Danielle Monero, was having a baby, or just had her baby, her first baby. And I said, you know what? Let me see if I can reach out to her. I would love to see if she would be able to maybe get Z100 or the morning show to sponsor one of my events. So I sent her an email, cold turkey, and eventually, a couple days later, I get a response back from her. And she was like, I love what you wrote. I would love to get involved. Let me know when you're available. We'll get on a phone call and we'll see what we can do. So I get on the phone call with her, and I got like butterflies in my stomach. I was like, I can't believe this is even happening. So long story short, I was able to get them to sponsor the event. They brought me and one of the neonatal intensive care unit doctors up into the studio, and they recorded us and they interviewed us, and we got to promote the event, and we had this beautiful fundraiser, and we raised quite a few bucks. Danielle came as sort of the MC, and we had a great event. But as we were promoting the event, obviously, you guys know you need marketing materials. You need flyers. You need posters. You need digital marketing collateral to get the word out about the event. So one of my buddies was a graphic designer at the time, and he invited me over. He was one of the sponsors as well, and he invited me over on a Sunday. And I sat down next to him on the computer, and he starts designing these flyers for me. And I was like, holy moly. Like, I didn't even know what graphic design was. And so I completely became infatuated with design. And so we did the event, and now I'm saying to myself, wow, I really want to become a graphic designer. It's so cool, right? So I convinced my boss at the time to purchase the Photoshop program, and so that I can start to do all the in-house graphics for my events. So that's what I started to do. One after the other, and I started to build up a skill set. And then other departments in the hospital started to see what I was doing for the SIDS Center, and they were like, hey, we're doing an event, could you do, our invitations? And then I started to take the career a little bit more seriously. So, I'll never forget it. I was trying to start this promotions company with a partner, and it was just the wrong person to partner with. It wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't going anywhere fast. So I eventually cut ties with that person, and that inspired me to create my own thing. And that's where Unique Designz was born. And I started just putting myself out there. I would work for free. And I would put in like 20-hour days while I was still working at the hospital. So I would come home from work. I would jump on my little laptop. I didn't even have a mouse. I like literally designed with my finger on the laptop, mouse pad. And I don't even know how to explain it. I just kept after it. And I would just do design work for people for free just to get experience. And eventually, one of the local cover bands, they had a manager, and they said, listen, we love what you're doing. We would love for you to start designing for us and be our in-house guy. Would you be interested? And I said, sure. So I started designing for a cover band, which led to the nightlife industry. And now I started to do designs for the nightlife industry, and that's when the business exploded. So now I started to build up quite a bit of business, on the side. And all of a sudden, things started to get a little bit crazy at the hospital. So the hospital was going through some transitions, and eventually they came to me and said, due to the economic crisis, part of your position, is going to be absorbed, and you're not going to be able to do all of the things that you're currently doing because the grant that pays for half of your salary is now gone. And so if you want to stay here at the hospital, there's a good chance that you will become a administrative assistant to somebody. Now, think of it. I've had all this success so far. I got this little hobby/business going on the side, and my boss comes in and tells me that I'm going to pretty much demote you to a secretary over the next couple of weeks. So you have an option. You can stay or you can go. And so I was a nervous wreck. I said, I don't know. I mean, I'm doing okay with this business, Unique Designz. I don't know if it's going to be able to sustain a life, But I said, you know what? It's my entrepreneurial spirit calling. I got to do this. So I gave my 2 weeks, and I just went out and I hustled that first 365 days like you wouldn't believe. And I just had my head down, and I just worked. And, I would pick my head up, and it'd be 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and I would sleep for a little bit. Then I'd get back up at 7 or 8, and I would go bang at it again. And it eventually netted me $248,000. I should say not net, gross. Did $248,000 in business the first year. And that gave me the chops. That gave me the courage. That gave me the confidence to say, you know what? I got a business here. And so I went at it, and I went at it strong. And in my first 3 years, I made my first $1 million, and I didn't even know it. It was just one of those days. I just saw it kind of come and go. And I was just so busy. And I met my wife, and I started to get more mature. We weren't going out to those nightclubs anymore. And business started to get very cutthroat in the nightlife industry, and I wasn't happy with what I was doing. It was I was working for peanuts. At the end of the day, I was probably working for $5 an hour because I was working so many hours. And so I said to myself, I'll never forget, it was a Saturday morning, or it was a Saturday afternoon. I put in probably 12 hours of work thus far, and I said, is this what it's all about? Like, is this what I'm going to be doing when I'm 40? Like designing club flyers for like sketchy club promoters that skip out on their tabs and never pay me on time and, sometimes never get paid at all. Like, is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? And so I slowly but surely tried to back my way out of the nightlife industry and get into more corporate work. And it was hard because all my experience was in the nightlife industry. So I kept it moving, started to get some corporate jobs, and eventually I just hit a brick wall for the simple fact that the economy was catching up to me. I wasn't positioning or marketing my business correctly, and I started to see the bank account diminish. And then on top of it all, we get hit by Hurricane Sandy. And Hurricane Sandy was a vicious storm. It wiped out two of my biggest clients, which combined generated close to $250,000 a year in revenue for me and my business. And so what happened was when the hurricane wiped them out, when they restructured and reorganized, they gave me I got that phone call, and they said, you know what, Guy, Henry, we love your work. We love you. You've been great for us for the past 2 years, but, the CEO is doing some restructuring, and we're not going to be able to use you as a vendor anymore. So, we'll finish out all our projects, but you won't have any more work going forward. And I was devastated. I said, how am I going to make up $250,000 in revenue? I'm not. It was impossible at the time. And Fiverr came out. Talk about just one whammy after the next. Fiverr comes out and wipes out the design industry. I mean, projects that I would get $150, $200, $300 for, you go to Fiverr now and get it for $5. Now, again, the quality is not the same, but it commoditized design. And I said, now what am I going to do? So I was struggling bad, and I didn't know what to do. I was hiding it from my wife pretty good. I was hiding it from my friends and family because I didn't want to disappoint him. And finally it caught up to me. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I spent the afternoon with my in-laws, and I just wasn't right. And I came home and I talked to my wife. I says, Tori, I gotta tell you something. I says, the business isn't doing well. I'm hemorrhaging money. We're now negative $2,500 in the business account. And I started to break down. I started to cry. I said, I don't know what to do. And, I'm stuck. And being the awesome wife that my wife is, I'll never forget it. Instead of her saying, listen, I didn't sign up for this, go figure it out, make it happen, make it rain. This is not my problem. She jumps off the bed, goes and grabs her laptop, comes and sits next to me and says, let's get to work. And so she spent about 2.5 hours that night researching competitors and figuring out how we can position me. And I started to get at it. And so she was super supportive and just helped and guided me as much as I needed it, as much as she could. And eventually I said, I need a business coach. And so I was watching this guy, Russell Brunson, for a while, and I was listening to his podcast, very similar to this one. And, he kept talking about this coaching program. And I said, you know what? I gotta inquire about it. So I get the details and inquire, and I come to find out it's $25,000. And I said, I don't have 25 grand. I don't have a pot to piss in here. There's got to be another way. And so at the time he had this lower ticket coaching, and it was 10 grand. And he was like, you know what? I said to them, listen, I don't have 10 grand, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on a credit card. And it's not if this happens and it's not if this works, it's when this works. This is going to help me take my business to the next level and get out of this hellhole that I'm in. And so I met Russell. We did our first call. I gave him everything I got. I was hysterical crying. He was hysterical crying. I basically told him my whole story. And that day he hired me for like $4,000 to help him with some design work for his first book launch. And that I just was so grateful for. And, eventually I redesigned his podcast cover without him knowing and gave it to him as a gift one day after he was able to help me make that $10,000 back within 6 weeks. And, he then hired me on the spot full time to be his branding guy. And, a lot of the stuff that you see for ClickFunnels was, all behind the scenes work of me. It was all our stuff that we were designing and building for him. So eventually built out a team. Now we have 16 people working for me. It's crazy. I have about 6 designers on 6 different continents now that are all working full time. They're not subcontracted. They're full time employees. I have 2 crews. I have a website and funnel design crew. I have a design crew. And over the past 10 years of my career, I've been able to work with some amazing people. I had the opportunity to work with John Bon Jovi on 3 of his world tours, designing a lot of his branding for his fan club. I've worked with some powerhouse entrepreneurs like Fabio Viviani. He's one of the top chef winners and now owns 22 restaurants and does about $100 million, $130 million in revenue a year. Who else have I worked with? Currently working with Frank Kern and his Inner Circle program, and just learning from the greats. And I'm always a forever student, I say. I'm never going to be able to know it all. I don't want to know it all. And I will continue to build and just get better every single day. And just have had a blessing of an entrepreneurial career. And I'm so glad that I went through those hardships, because now it has brought me to where I'm at today, where we're doing, guys, I can't tell you. I mean, I feel extremely grateful for all the experiences and to have built a business that is just thriving to where it's at today. I could have never imagined it in a million years. I really couldn't. And so now I have the opportunity to work with dozens of entrepreneurs at such a high level, helping them build their brands, rebranding their businesses, starting from scratch. People coming to me, passionate entrepreneurs coming to me saying, I have this idea in my head. I got the proof of concept down. I need you to help me build this thing and make this a reality, and to work with people on that level and help them bring their dreams to life has just been a blessing. It's just been a blessing. So guys, this is the backstory of Henry Kaminski Jr. and how Unique Designz got started, how my entrepreneurial career got started. It wasn't an easy road. It really wasn't. And I've struggled tremendously during those dark moments and have resurrected my business. There was so many times I could have just threw in the towel and said, you know what? This isn't for me. I need something more stable, something more concrete. We don't have any kids yet. We're having our first baby in just about 20 days. Our first boy. We're so excited and so blessed. But back in the day, I said, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe it's time to get a job again. But there was this burning desire inside of me to help people. I've always wanted to help people my entire life. And I'll tell you some stories in future podcast episodes of how and when I realized this. But, my purpose is to not be able to help as much as I want to help everybody. I know that time is our most valuable asset, and you can only help those that want to help and that are action takers and that want to take their business to the next level and will do what it takes, like I did, to make it happen. And so I've made a commitment to myself that every year, I want to help 120 entrepreneurs that are just have that burning desire that I have to take their life and their businesses to the next level. And it sounds like, well, why just 120? Well, again, time is my most valuable asset, as it is yours. And as much as I want to help as many people, there's only so much time I could do this. And people obviously hire me because of my expertise and my 10 years experience and my amazing design work and my team's work and the systematic approach that I take my clients through to get them the strategies that they need to build a successful business. But when you look at it, I only have a finite period of time, as you do. And so I've figured it out where I only have the bandwidth to work with 120 people a year. And so I'm going to keep it that way, because just like you guys, you want the financial freedom, you want the time freedom to do the things that you want to do with the people that you love when you want to do them. There's only so much time in the day. And so I've made it a point where I know what I want, and that's my mission. And I will only work with those that are driven and have the hunger and passion as much as that I do. And that's my goal. And again, my why is just being able to share my successes with other people and infuse the confidence into them, and to allow them to understand that you can do this too. You just got to stick with it. You need the guidance. Man, I wish I had a mentor 10 years ago. I mean, if there's one thing looking back, if I could do it all over again, I would have got a mentor day one, because God only knows where I'd be right now. But with that all said, guys, I want you guys to buckle in and enjoy this Brand Doctor podcast. I'm going to be coming to you with massive, massive amounts of value to help you take your brand to the next level, help you attract the quality clients that you deserve to work with and work for. And I will leave you with this, guys. The quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients. I'll say it again. The quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients. So hope you have an amazing day today. Hope you got some valuable lessons. I hope I was able to inspire you and motivate you and with this episode. And I cannot wait to bring you more and to connect with you and bond with you and to learn from you too, because I want this to be a two-way street. I want you to, write me on Instagram and write me on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and really connect with me, because I love people and I will always love people. And when you figure out what it is that you love, and you figure out what it is that why you're doing what you're doing and what your mission is in life, I promise you, the sky's the limit. So have an awesome day, guys, and I will catch you on the next episode.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesignz.net.